Hi, I'm Nikki. Welcome to my channel where we get nerdy. So I realize that today is June 11th and that I'm kind of late filming this, but it's better late than never, right? So in my lamp, I have a stack of the books that I read for the month of May. This is our little May wrap up, and maybe I'll do a little bit of a, so this is how well June is going so far. Which I did change parts of my May TBR because one, it was my birthday month and there was a lot going on. So I changed out some books and doubled up on some prompts. Two, because I can. Like, no other reason. So, in the reading journal, originally, for the month of May, which I read a total of 1,424 pages with an average rating of 3.75. Originally, we were going to read Endurance by Alfred Lansing, Seven Deadly Shadows by Amadea and Maitani. There's two authors for that book, which I do not have that book handy. I am letting a loved one borrow it because it is right up their alley with what they like. Rise of Knight and Sword by Miriam Wade. That has currently been DNF'd. I don't want to talk about it. Spin the Dawn, which has been pushed on to the TBR for June. Windwitch for The Witchlands Along. And Blood Air, which was one of the ones that I decided to take that prompt and double it up. So, in May, we'll start off with Seven Deadly Shadows because of how I don't have the physical copy. Seven Deadly Shadows, I rated it 4 stars. It covered our BTS prompt, which was for Jungkook. And his prompt was epic and like a fantasy story with a very strong, like it was very strong fantasy. You couldn't argue that it was something else. And there's a bit of a competition aspect. Not really a competition, but there was a battle between good and evil, so I'm counting it. And it also covered our prompt for insects on the cover. It is the only book I own that has insects on the cover. I just now realized. So let's hope that prompt doesn't come up again. The book is about the main character is the heir to the Fukiyawa, probably pronouncing that wrong, shrine, and it's been desecrated by demons. Well, technically yokai and shinigami and whatnot. It's been desecrated anyways, and so she needs to restore the name, the honor and the holiness of the shrine. She needs to restore it. So it's kind of like Percy Jackson meets Bleach, the anime. I don't know if everyone knows that anime, but that's where my son got his name Quincy. There's demon hunters that are called Quincy's. So I rated it 4 stars. The only reason it got 4 stars was because the way I enjoyed it and I loved it, but it didn't have that 5-star quality that I wanted out of the book. It didn't leave me wanting to, oh, I need to reread it, or I wish there was another book in this series so I could keep reading. Like, it kind of just ended, and it's like, okay, it's a good story. I enjoyed it while I was reading it, and I obviously recommended it to my loved one. So I enjoyed it. It was a good book. Next, we have, let me get to the book. Endurance by Alfred Lansing. So, this book is a true story based on a polar expedition to Antarctica. This book reads as though as it is fiction, but is very much nonfiction. There is some parts that are very hard to read. Trigger warning about animal death. It still blows my mind that this ended the way it did. Like, when you hear a group of, like, what was it, 20 some men in going on an expedition and in Antarctica, literally 2 years, not even, 2 years after the Titanic, you're not expecting them to survive, right? And all of them did. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. 28 men on a ship. And the ship ends up going down. And they're stuck in Antarctica for 2 years. You don't expect the men to survive, but somehow they do. And that's their story. There was the first thing that I tabbed in this was for scientific leadership, give me Scott. For swift and efficient travel, give me Amundsen. But when you're in a hopeless situation, when there seems no way out, get down your knees and pray for Shackleton. If that gives you any type of respect these men had for their captain, it was a phenomenal book. This is the type of nonfiction story that deserves a Hollywood adaptation. And really, I don't know why it hasn't gotten one. So there's that. Next, we have Windwitch by Susan Dennard with Prince Merrick just looking, even though you can't see his face, you know he is like meaning business in this right now. So, yet again, I can't really tell you what goes on in this book without spoiling the first book, but the one thing I did tab in this entire book was, it's easier to blame gods or legends than to face our own mistakes. This land is no more cursed than any other. It is simply steeped in too much blood. But anyways, this series is about witches that have different abilities. Windwitch, Prince Merrick, he's a windbender. If you watch Avatar, he's a wind witch. You have Safi, who is a truth witch. And you learn more about Merrick's sister. What you really need to know about the series, though, when you go into it, is a lot of what you get is going to be biased through the point of view of who you're reading. You know what I mean? So, like, Merrick thinks his sister is the world's biggest, not nice word for witch. But at the same time, like, you aren't given much of Vivia's perspective until this book. And then you realize, like, she's not as bad of a person as Merrick makes her out to be, but it's Merrick's perception of her, which is kind of biased, right? So, still, wonderful book. I can't wait for Witch Shadow, which is the last book in the series, and it comes out in 11 days. So this was book 2. Book 3 in the series I also read in May, which was not on our list. Sight Witch by Susan Dennard. It's got not the even edges, and it's a mixed media type book. It's someone's journal, basically. And this one you're following, this is the 2.5 novella. In this one you are following Ryber. She is a sight witch. Which they can see into the future and whatnot, so it's kind of difficult to fully understand it. But this little bit of Ryber's story, like, predates what happens on this. Okay? Does that make sense? Like, this story comes before Truth Witch and Windwitch. But in the whole scheme of things, it's set, like, you're reading it after those have already happened. So you're getting a bit kind of like a flashback into some of the world of the witches and how everything came to be. A little bit background history on the magic. So I rated this a 4-star. I was kind of let down because I understand that it was meant to be somebody's journal, but there is seriously some days where you literally have a sentence on a page, and I didn't get enough questions answered reading this. Like, people were telling me, like, some questions will be answered. Not all of my questions were answered, and it was really upsetting. I wish I had more questions answered, but oh well. And then our rollover from April was Lore by Alexandra Bracken. This is Hunger Game meets Percy Jackson, in my opinion. You have this battle for survival, and it's all based around Greek mythology. So, I ultimately do not remember what I rated this. Let me check the handy dandy reading journal. Lore was 4 stars. It got 4 stars mainly because it was slow starting, and it just seemed unnecessary for it to be that slow to start. But other than that, like, it was still a good story. I would recommend it to other people. Even though it is not a 5-star, it will be placed on my shelf with my other 5 stars because I will not unhaul this book. I enjoyed it, and there's a part in it that I have always believed to be more fitting. If you want to know, message me on Instagram if you don't mind the spoiler. So my Instagram is gdxnikki, so feel free to send me a message over there. Say, hey, what was the thing in Lore that you think fits Greek mythology more than what we were taught in school? So that was a fairly successful month of May. So we have 5 books here that was read. Imagine 7 Deadly Shadows on top. Here, we'll just take a random book that I have sitting behind my camera. All right. It's a successful month of May, right? Okay. So that was a good month of May. Now, June update. Okay, before the June update, we got some bookish mail. One of them being, I got these sent to me by Susan Dennard herself, because I want to give away on Instagram. They are fan art for, I can't span them all out, all of the Witchland witches. So we have Prince Merrick, who is our Windwitch. We have Ryber, who is our sight witch. We have Aduin, who is our blood witch. We have Safia, our truth witch. We have Isolde, who is our thread witch. That we're not sure is completely just a thread witch. I know, plot twist. Then we have Vivia, who is a water witch, Prince Merrick's sister. And then we have Styx, who is a water witch. And a friend of Vivia. We'll say friend, like, because I don't really know what else to call her right now. Love interest, maybe. And they were all signed on the back by Susan Dunnard. So, I'm waiting to get some frames. I'm going to frame these. They are just absolutely beautiful. So that was the first bit of bookish mail. And the second bit of bookish mail was, if I can get it, Unravel the Dusk by Elizabeth Lim. I like the UK copies better than the American copies, so I got this off Book Depository. So now they match. I'm so excited. They are just beautiful. They are absolutely stunning. So, anyways, that's that. The month of June, Whatever-a-thon. Whatever-a-thon has started, and first book I read was City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab. This is her middle grade series. Cass can pull back the veil between the living and the dead and whatnot, and her parents are paranormal investigators. Her dad is very much a skeptic. Her mom is very much a believer, and they don't even realize that their daughter can manipulate the beyond. So, cute story. Absolutely loved it. My type of thriller for a middle grade. So I give it a 5 out of 5. This morning I finished my reread of Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco for Whatever-a-thon. Did I enjoy it as much as I did the first time? No, because I know of the plot holes that you think are wrapped up in this, but they're not. But nonetheless, I still love Audrey Rose, and I still love Thomas Cresswell, and I will recommend this to anyone and everyone that loves those investigative mysteries to try and figure out who done it before it tells you who done it. Oh, I didn't mean to knock the tripod. The next book I started to read was Spin the Dawn. You can see Ki-hyun sticking his little head out at the top. Not very far into it at all. I just have it sectioned out for different parts of my buddy read to react. I can't really give you much on how I feel about it. I'm literally 8 pages in, so I started it only a few minutes ago, watching Whatever-a-thon sprints that were recorded yesterday that I didn't get to take part in. And then I'm going to eat crow and say I found a sci-fi that I liked and that I'm continuing the series. I know, blasphemous, but it's Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. This book, one, the story behind it is one I never would have been able to dream up in my wildest dreams. First. Second, if this ever gets made into a movie, please Quentin Tarantino be the director. Because I honestly think he is the only person that could do this justice. Third, the anatomical correctness verbiage in this book makes my little scientist heart very, very happy. They're referring to femurs as femurs, not thigh bones. And it's not wrist bones, but we got, carpals. And it's not hand bones, it's metacarpals. You know what I mean? Like, or whatever. I probably switched those around because I'm too excited right now. But I loved this book. I gave a sci-fi book a 5-star rating if that gives you any inclination on how I feel. Because beforehand, I would say sci-fi was not my cup of tea. This was very much my cup of tea. Um, so, yes, there are different parts that I tabbed. Some of them were really random tabs, just because Gideon is the lesbian Deadpool. Like, that is her type of humor, is Deadpool. If that helps, like, give you a sense of the type of person she is. But I loved it. So some of these tabs are her little remarks. Other of them, I just love the description of what's happening in the scene. Yeah. The world building that Tamsin Muir does here is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. It honestly rivals some of the best worlds there are out there in literacy, in my opinion. So, that's that. That is my May wrap up, some, bookish mail, and then an update for the month of June. I did start All the Stars and Teeth earlier. Wasn't really feeling it. I was starting to get a little sleepy, so I'm like, all right, we'll set that aside, and we will start on Spin the Dawn, which is, I'm expecting it to be really flippin' good because I love Elizabeth Lim's writing. So, until next time, remember, you are loved and you are valued.